Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode we've got a special Sample Saturday video for you. So if you're used to my usual reviews, this is not that. This is a more long form video where I've got quite a lot of samples here today. Usually I cover anything between 2 and sort of 4 or 5 samples. Today we've got 7 different whiskies to go through, and it's all by Watt Whisky, a fairly new independent bottler on the scene. This is their 4th release, I think all 7 of these are, maybe one of them. I think I found 6 online, and the Campbeltown Blend, which we'll get to a bit later, is a 7th one which isn't on their list. I'm going to drop links in the description below, but the idea of this video is a little bit more long format, a little bit less edited. I tend to edit out the major mistakes, but I tend to let most of it just flow. This is just me talking to you, going through some very high strength whiskey today, so we'll see how we get on. In terms of tasting, I haven't tasted any of these before, maybe just a little tiny sip to see which ones were kind of smokier and not, to get the kind of general order of this, but this order has been designed by me. I haven't kind of spoken to anyone about what order to do these in. I'll cleanse with water in between each dram, and I'll try to tell you as best as I can what each whiskey is, but I generally haven't done any research on these whiskies, and that's something that Watt Whisky are kind of on board with, but I'll get onto that in just a moment. We've got whiskies from all over the place here today, so yeah, hopefully I'll do some on-the-fly tasting notes, nothing too serious, you know how I roll with the channel, and we'll go through each one in turn and let you know a little bit more about them. But before we get into that, Watt Whisky themselves. So this is a couple up in Campbeltown. This is Mark and Kate Watt, and they've got quite a lot of experience in the Scotch industry, so they've decided to combine those efforts together and work together and make a independent bottling brand. Pretty cool, if you ask me. Something that I really like that they do is really simple tasting notes, really simple labels that just tell you the main information. It's something that I've obviously subscribed to with my own bottles back here when I did my own little dabbling of independent bottling. Very important, I think, just to keep it extremely simple, and I like that. One of the things that they like to do is these little logos, which I'll show you on each of these here. This little logo here, that is a kind of stylized version of a taste bud, and the reason behind that is Mark has a mild case of what they call synesthesia, and the long and short of that is, I don't want to go too technical into it, but the long and short of that is that his taste buds, his taste sensation is experienced by other senses as well. Some people have had synesthesia where they kind of see colours as letters, but in Mark's case, he tastes in colour. So what they've done is they've put together, I think, 9 different colour profiles. This one's blue here, you see, and then the next one here is a kind of lighter red. And the idea, and he actually says this on the website as well, the idea is that it's possible that if he sees them as this colour, that you might band them together slightly, although as you'll see here the taste profiles are kind of vastly different, but you might enjoy them, although I said on the website, he says that it's non-scientific, not been trialled in any way, it's just something nice they like to do. I quite like it. It's just a little bit of extra quirkiness that's going on with it, and as he says, it kind of bands them together a little, but we'll see how we get on with that as we go through. What I'll do then is I'll show you what I've got here, and then we'll go through them one by one. I'll have chapters below, so if you want to skip ahead to see anything specific, then you can do, but if not, strap in, and hopefully you've got a couple of these whiskies you want to drink along with me. If not, you can check in the description below on how to get hold of them. They're not selling them directly, they're through different websites and whatnot, and something that's pretty cool is they're also available, I think, I'm going to test it myself now, but I think they're available in Belgium. They're available, I want to say Italy, but I might be wrong there, and Japan as well. In any case, I'll drop you the links in the description below directly to their where to buy, but in the UK you can get this from the Whisky Exchange, although this range currently at time of recording isn't on there, but there are other places you can get hold of these things if you want to. So we've got a lot to get through. Let's get into the first one. As you can see, I've got these all pre-poured out. I've no idea what I'm getting myself into with these things, so I'm assuming they're going to be fantastic whiskey, because they're talking about the taste is the kind of main goal. We do have a rum here as well, and I should say before I even get to that rum that I'm no way, shape or form a rum guy. I haven't covered a single rum on the channel yet, although I do have one to cover. A bit scared of covering it though, because I genuinely don't know anything about rum apart from a few basics. But let's start this way and see what we've got, shall we? So the first one then is a blue taste bud, and if you can see on the label there, this is a Glen Elgin, aged 14 years, 51.3%. I believe they say on the website and maybe on the bottles that actually exist that it's all non-chill filtered, natural coloured and all that sort of stuff. So we like that sort of thing. I've also made a little bit of a note of the prices of these on one specific website, but they might differ from wherever you are in the world. So this one here was £67, and I think actually might be... it's the cheapest one I could get a price on. There's two here that I couldn't find a price, but you know that they'll be out there somewhere. So yeah, we've got a Glen Elgin first, which is interesting. I haven't covered a Glen Elgin on the channel before, so let's get into the kind of nose on that and see what we've got, shall we? Okay, yeah, it's a very light and floral nose. This is all very on the fly, so apologies if it isn't my usual kind of delivery, but you know, it is what it is. To me, there's almost a kind of tangerine-y note to it at the back end. It's nice. It's definitely nice, without a doubt. Whoa. Something else going on there. It's almost like a cough sweet vibe at the back end. Let's try on the palate and see what we've got. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm struck with so many different things going on there. There's some juicy elements to it. There's some drying elements. There's some spicy elements. I'm going to have another sip of that. Yeah, I mean, it's like heaps of tangerines. Heaps of it. Well, especially on the back end. I mean, I have no idea. I haven't read their official tasting notes on these at all, so I've no idea what they've said, if I'm jumping on something or if I'm completely different, but... Wow, okay. That's nuts. That's so tasty. Yeah, it's not like spicy, but there's definitely some ABV spice going on there as well. Wow, for an opening salvo, immediately impressed. That's I don't think I've tried a whiskey quite like that in terms of citrus before. Usually I say citrusy, maybe a bit of orangey, but that's like immediately tangerines to me. Okay, let's have a quick sip. We're going to cleanse out, and then we're going to move on to the next one, which, again, I might have done this in a completely wrong order, but we'll see. This one's a Linkwood 13-year, 59.3%. So there you go. This one's got a slightly more red vibe about it. Linkwood, always good to taste a Linkwood. I haven't actually covered a Linkwood on the channel again, I don't think. Not a specific Linkwood anyway. Certainly not one 13 years, and a very high ABV again. This one sells for about 70. So going up slightly in price. Cheers to you guys. Let's have a little sniff. Okay, yeah, so immediately I probably made a slight error in the way around I've done this, because this is a bit lighter. A little bit harder to pick out some kind of standout notes, let's say. But it's kind of vanillas and kind of a floral note there, a bit grassy, not a lot grassy. It's not like herbally, what am I trying to say? It's not like a herbally hay-like nature. It's not like a young malt or anything like that. But there's definitely a kind of that immediate element of kind of cut grass almost to it. Let's try on the palate. Well, that's got a really nice, thick, luxurious taste to it. Way more viscous than the last one, although they're both in the kind of realms of the same ABV. I suppose not really. I've just looked again. It's nearly 10% higher, but maybe that's the difference. One more sip. Now this is a little bit more honey, a little bit more kind of biscuit. There is some slight citrusy vibes going on there, but nothing too heavy. Very light and chilled out. The ABV is obviously a lot higher, and the ABV spice, the alcohol tingliness is a little higher. But for me, an excellent whiskey for sure. If I was going to talk about flavour and what I preferred, I think I probably preferred the interesting tangerine notes of the first one, but this one is excellent whiskey as well. Definitely one to chill out to, I think, rather than kind of delve into. There you go. Let's have another sip of water. I'm going to try and get through these, not like, as quick as possible, but I don't want to keep, everyone hanging on too long. It's already been twice as long as my usual style videos, but that's what I like doing with these Sample Saturday videos. It gives me a little bit more of a chance to converse and kind of show you my process a little bit more, because although I don't tend to rush through things when I'm researching my normal reviews, this is kind of how I taste whiskey. Okay. I was looking forward to trying this one because, as you guys know, I am a huge fan of single grain whiskey. I just don't tend to cover much of it, to be fair. When I have a bottle of it, it doesn't last very long, so I tend to cover it and then it's gone, but I should buy more. Here we have a Port Dundas 20-year, and it's a 57.1%. We've got a kind of yellowy, greeny taste bud on this one. But yeah, a big fan of grain whiskey, especially well-aged grain whiskey. Now, sometimes I say that 25 years plus is great for a grain whiskey, but really 20 or anything, anything above 15 is generally speaking quite nice for a grain. But let's get onto the nose on this and see what we've got, see if it's any different to any other grains I've tried before. Whoa, okay, yeah, this is... I mean, you can definitely tell the difference between a single malt and a single grain, I think. If you're on a blind tasting, I think grains tend to stand out a little more. Very hard to pick out flavour profiles, I think, from single grains. It's got a musty element to it. Definitely the kind of like vanillas and kind of oaky elements to it that you might expect from ex-bourbon casks, which I assume this is. There's some very, very, very light honeys and something else at the back end. I'm struggling to pick that out, to be fair, but let's see if the taste reveals it a little more. On the palate, then. Oh, so good. Now, the thing about single grain whiskey is it has this kind of like, it's not a very good tasting note, and I apologise for it, but it has this kind of creaminess to it that I really like, and it's what makes grain whiskey for me stand out. And the longer it's been in the cask, the more mellow and creamy that creaminess note is. And this is more of that. It's not particularly complex, I have to say, as a whiskey goes. It's not particularly complex, but that's not what I'm after when it comes to stuff like this. I'm after those contrasting flavours to single malt that basically help me ground my palate and reset my palate, so that if you drink the same things over and over again, basically what you'll achieve is like an olfactory blindness almost. You'll be so used to drinking what you're drinking that you won't be able to tell the difference between the two. But that's why I try to rotate what I'm drinking a lot. Adding in a single grain into that mix really helps with that rotation of flavour profile. And this is great. It's a little bit more expensive than the other ones. This was £87 on the website that I found. So we're going up in price a little, but I think worth it for sure. Again, in terms of flavour and what's impressed me the most so far, I'm still on that first one, although all three of these are so different that they would be interchangeable depending on my mood. Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Another sip then. Yeah, I'm not going like full on cleanse palate with like, I don't know, bits of food or whatnot. You guys don't want to see me eating any food on this, so let's move on to the fourth one then. And here we have something a little different. We have a Paul John, which is of course an Indian whiskey, aged 4 years, and it's 57.1%, which is the same ABV as the last one, interestingly. And this one is more of a deeper red on the flavour profile, and it's we've actually got 5 here today. We've got a blue, a light red, 2 of these kind of greeny yellows, 2 of these dark reds, and then 1 green. So yeah, interesting. Let's get into this and see what we've got now. I think I've only covered a handful of Paul Johns, definitely nothing single cask or cask strength. And I couldn't get a price for this one, so if anyone from Watt Whisky is watching, please do let us know below. But if you check on your links, you'll be able to see when it pops up. I think when TWE finally get stock of this, then they'll have prices for all of them. Wow, this has got a really rich nose. Obviously, the Indian climate tends to age, if you use the words quote, aged whiskies a bit quicker. The maturation process is a little faster than it would be in Scotland, for example. So you should get for a younger whiskey, you should get a more mature flavour profile, if that makes sense. Hard to pick out exactly what I want to say on the nose. It's very high on the tannins. It's kind of leathery, a touch of tobacco. Still those kind of vanilla oats coming through. Surprisingly enough, maybe I'm just getting used to it with the lineup I've got now, but I'm not getting kicked by the ABV on this on the nose. As you can see, I've got my nose right in there. Let's have a go on the palate. Ooh. Oh, there's a lot going on there. Wow, and carries on going. Blimey, okay, that's deep. So the first big flavour is oak. There is a lot of wood influence in this, and therefore a lot of tannic notes as well. Those kind of leathery notes, tobacco notes that I was talking about. Let's have another quick sip. There's some fruits, some dark fruits going on there. It's quite chocolatey as well, I would say. You can probably see on my face, I'm struggling to pick out anything because it's almost like an orchestra, dare I say. That's like verging on the side of nonsense there, but it's sometimes difficult to pick out individual instruments when there's so much going on. But incredibly deep whiskey, and one that you would really want to sit and drink throughout a night. Like, you could easily pour yourself a dram of this, a good wedge, let's say a double, and sip it every sort of 10-15 minutes until it's gone. And I reckon it would change drastically from start to finish over the evening as it interacted with the air, and as your moods changed throughout the evening. Maybe you got more relaxed or whatever. Yeah, really good whiskey, but you have to be aware of those high tannins, I think. If that's not your flavour profile, not sure you'd enjoy that, but it's definitely something that really interests me, that's for sure. One more cleanse. I'll say one more. At least two more cleanses. Okay, this was an interesting one. So going back to that kind of yellowy green, and this is a Campbeltown blended malt. The Scotch whisky, the local edition. So this is aged 7 years and 57.4%. Hopefully you've seen that. I don't know anything about this. I probably could have asked, but I like to do these videos just based on the information I can get hold of rather than going direct to source. I imagine all this is that they live in Campbeltown. They've probably gone to one or more of the distilleries. It might even be Teaspoon for all I know, but it's definitely going to have at least 2 of the 3 distilleries in there. And they probably would have just curated this themselves. So because it's a blended malt, I don't know if this is like how many different casks have gone into this or anything like that, but Campbeltown's always a winner for me, so I think we're going to find something quite interesting in this. Again, couldn't get a price for this, but I'm sure if you're watching this and you have a little look at some of the links in the description, you might find in your area how much this is. Quite light on the colour, but that's to be expected. It's only been aged for, what did I say, 7 years? 7 years. Let's try on the nose. Okay, yeah, this is like everything I look for in a good Campbeltown, which is things like it's got this kind of like musty element to it. It's almost briny in nature. It's almost like a very slight touch of sulphuriness to it that I get familiar with on the Springbanks. Now, you guys, if you've watched for any length of time, you'll know I'm not a huge fan of the sulphury notes, but when it's done right and it's only kind of light and it's just part of the cacophony, then I don't mind it so much. But yeah, definitely getting a few sulphury elements to it. Very grassy and herbal is exactly what I would pin on a Campbeltown for sure. Okay, let's try on the palate then. Okay, yeah. Yeah, more of all that stuff, that kind of like grassy, herbal elements. It's not quite as salty on the palate as it was on the nose. and that sulphur is still kicking around. Again, it's really, really light on the sulphur. I imagine that the ordinary whiskey drinker wouldn't even detect it. But you guys know what I'm like. I'm like a canary for this sort of thing. Now, for me, I have to say, on that one, lovely whiskey for sure. Very dependent on what the price would be, if I would be interested in it or not. I'm not sure where I'd put my threshold on it though. That's the tough thing. I don't know. I'm just going to stick a pin in the dark and say about 65 quid. If it was too much more, I'm not sure if I'd want a bottle of it, just based on that touch of sulphur in there that doesn't do it for me. But that's just me. You guys know that's just me. I'm sure somebody out there would absolutely love that from start to finish. It is a very good whiskey, but so far my least favourite of the ones I've tried today. I think that's probably fair to say. There you go. So 2 left. So yeah, 2 more sips. I do love my water. So the penultimate one then. This is a Ardmore distillery. I put it at the back here because when I did my initial kind of smell test on it, I did pick up some good smoke on this. So I thought this better be last, or near last, because I'm going to rum last. Probably because that's got really, really strong flavours. I think it'll even overwrite the very light peatedness of this. So this is an Ardmore distillery whiskey, and it's 9 years and 57.6%. And we're going back to that kind of dark red taste bud there. Fair play. I've covered a couple of Ardmores, just the kind of, I think like the Legacy I've covered. Enjoy it. The Legacy is quite cheap. This one's about £74, which I guess, single cask and all that lot to be expected. Quite light in colour again, but again, it's a fairly youthful whiskey, and I should imagine that's been in some kind of refill cask. But let's have a sniff and see what we've got. Definitely some light, earthy smokiness. This isn't the smoke you get when you're standing next to a bonfire. This is definitely peat. This is definitely boggy and earthy. But just like the rest of the Ardmores I've tried, very light indeed. It's just part of the whiskey profile instead of like the entire whiskey profile, if that makes any sense to you. There's some really, really light kind of vanilla-y, oaky, honey vibes to it. All kind of, normal flavours, let's say. But, stuff that I tend to talk about a lot, but it's there. That's what I get. Let's try on the palate. Oh, okay, that's good. I like that. Let's go for another sip before I give it any notes. Yeah. So no surprises on the palate. It translates quite nicely over from the nose. The peat has gone from light to not so light. It isn't like really heavy at all. It isn't a heavily peated whiskey. If you're not into peat at all, I don't think you'll like it. But if you are into peat, it's on the spectrum. Very light, very floral still. Lots more of those vanillas and honeys and kind of oaky elements still mingling around. I don't think it's overly complex, but the kind of sweet smoke to it is something I really look for. Love that sort of flavour profile. Lovely, I think. And for only 9 years as well, very flavourful. Okay, so we're on the last one now. This is a rum. I can't tell you too much about this, I have to say. All it says on here is a Jamaican rum distilled at Clarendon Estate, aged 16 years, 57.1% again. What are the chances, huh? I should say as well, I think I've said cask strength a few times. I don't actually know for a fact that these are cask strength. I'm assuming they are because they're quite high in ABV, but they could well have been cut for any reason. But I don't know for sure. Something I do know from their website on this is that it's aged for 15 of its 16 years over in the tropics, and it's aged for a final year, continental they call it, which is probably just somewhere in Europe, I imagine, Scotland. This one's the most expensive one on the table at £115, but I think this is going to be one for really the kind of hardcore rum drinkers. At that sort of price point, I don't think it's going to attract a casual rum drinker, let's say, but let's see what we've got. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a huge rum guy. I'm slowly coming around to the idea of these premium and expensive rums, and things like this, like, you know, 15 years, 16 years is kind of unheard of, really, which is probably why it's so expensive. But let's go onto the nose and see what we've got. Whoa, okay. Wow. That's been sat out for a while, and straight away, I mean, I've been sticking my nose right into these whiskies, and this rum, I'm here, and it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, obviously it's rum-like, but so rum in general is quite sweet. Lots of tannins going on here. It's almost like pencil shavings, and some kind of like, just want to pick my chemical, not acetone, but something similar like that. But and I don't mean that in a negative way, or, you know, some people see acetone as a really negative flavour, but I work with acetone for a living, and I kind of love the smell of it, really. But that's maybe indoctrination. But it's a really nice, kind of almost polishy smell to it, like a wood polish. Oh, I really do like the nose on that. Now I'm getting used to it now, so I can put my nose a bit further. Got a bit of marzipan on the back there as well. Let's try on the palate. Okay. Was not expecting that. Wow, okay. Very different to the nose. I'm going to have another little taste of that. Wow, okay. I mean, it's like licorice almost. Very, very aniseed. Very, very aniseed indeed. Quite oaky. Not as sweet as I was expecting it to be. Sweet on the nose, but not so sweet on the palate. It's there's a lot going on there, and I'm not sure I can do it justice at all. I mean, if you like rum, I can't honestly say if you would like this or not, based on it's so different to any other rum I've ever tried. I think just based on that alone, that might pique your interest to give it a go or not. But very interesting indeed. Yeah, lots going on there. Very drying on the back end. I'm gonna have another little sip while I'm chewing that over, because that sent my taste buds into spiral. Yeah, but I mean, it's more of those kind of like acetone notes and the polishy notes for sure. But yeah, the overarching flavour on that is like licorice. So I guess if you come down on one side or the other on licorice, that kind of tells you whether you're going to like this one or not, if you get the same flavour profiles as me. Well, there you go. That was a very extended episode. I don't think I've ever done, what are we on, almost 30 minutes. I don't think I've ever done a 30-minute episode before. That wasn't a live stream anyway. But hopefully you've enjoyed this not so quick overview of Watt Whisky. This is their 4th release. I can tell you, based on these 7, that they're doing wonderful things. They're covering a lot of flavour profiles, and for me to enjoy all of them, even though I've kind of said I think maybe the Campbeltown is my least favourite, that doesn't mean it's a bad whiskey. It's just on the table. It doesn't compete with the other ones, in my opinion, for the top spot, at least. That's what I'm trying to say. Picking a favourite, that's a tough one. The Ardmore is up there for sure, because it's got those peaty notes that I really like. But I would say probably any of the first 4. So we're talking the Glen Elgin, the Linkwood, the Port Dundas, and of course the Paul John. Any of those could be my favourite on any given day, depending on what I'm after on that specific day. Whether I'm after something really unique, like this Glen Elgin, which I have no idea where those tangerine notes are coming from. Let's have a little taste of that, see if they're still there. Oh yeah. I have no idea how a whiskey produces that sort of flavour. But yeah, there you go. Hopefully you've enjoyed that slightly longer form video. Please do check out the links in the description below to find out more information about these guys. I'll drop like direct website information to them and how you can get hold of these whiskies. Massive thank you to Kate for sending over these samples to me. I'm very glad to have tried them, and would love to review some of these in the future, because they are fantastic whiskies. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the like button and hit a comment if you've lasted this long, and think which one you might want to try first. See you on another No Nonsense Whiskey video.